Hey students, Professor Quinn here. So you finally broke down and decided to learn web programming. Well, you've come to the right place because this tutorial provides an easy to understand explanation of HTML. HTML is a computer language that is used for developing web pages and web applications. In this video, I will provide an overview of HTML and discuss some basic markup language concepts. If you want to continue your learning, I would recommend that you watch the follow-up video where I will demonstrate how to create a simple HTML document. I'll link to it in the description below. One more thing. If you really want to learn about web development and programming, please subscribe to my channel. What are we waiting for? Let's get started. If you watch this video in its entirety, you will be able to define the term hypertext, define the term markup language, explain how whitespace in an HTML document is handled by the browser, explain the purpose of tagging in HTML, and construct an opening and closing tag. So, let's start at the beginning. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Well, what does that mean? Let's split the term in half and look at each part individually. The first two letters, HT, of HTML stand for hypertext. This is text that provides a link to other content. To better understand what this means, let's look at an example. You are probably already familiar with a search engine like Google, which returns an exhaustive list of pages that match a word or phrase that you might type. If I type a term like HTML tutorial in the search box and press enter, Google reveals the results. Any text that contains a link to some other content is hypertext. In this example, HTML online tutorials Learn, Master, and Succeed is hypertext. HTML structured data is hypertext. Responsive HTML email is hypertext, and so on. Often HTML hypertext is formatted differently and changes in appearance when a user hovers the mouse over the text. You'll notice the text on Google's main site displays in blue. When I hover the mouse over the hypertext, an underline appears beneath the text and the mouse cursor changes to a hand icon. Remember that hypertext is a link to some other content. If I scroll down and click on the link for HTML tutorial W3 Schools, I will be linked to a web page on the internet. What's actually happening is my computer is making a request to a web server that hosts the content for W3 Schools. The web server is sending my computer a document, and the browser on my computer is interpreting and displaying the HTML. The second two letters of HTML stand for markup language. A markup language is a computer language that combines text with the tags that annotate the text. Before we get into tagging, let's talk a little bit more about these annotations. An annotation can describe the HTML document, organize the content of the document, format text within the document, and much more. For example, we can use these annotations to determine what text is hypertext and how the links to this hypertext will work. Let's take a look at an example to see how tags can be used to annotate text and how these annotations can work. If I want to display text in a browser, I would start by creating a document in a text editor or integrated development environment. Here I'm using the text editor called Notepad++. I would then add the text to the section of the HTML document called the body. We will discuss how to develop an HTML document and explain the different parts in the next video. For now, I will simply add some text to the body section indicated with a red rectangle. I'll use the transcript from a previous part of this video as my text. After adding the text, you can see that everything looks fine in the text editor. But when I save my work and open the file in the browser, the text changes. If we look more closely at what happened, you'll notice the browser does not recognize where I typed the Enter key, the Tab key, and the Space key more than one time. Any non-printed characters that are typed to make the words easier to read or to make the document more visually appealing are called white space characters. Simply put, browsers ignore white space. At this point, you might be asking yourself, how do I add white space to an HTML document to make the text easier to read? And the answer is through the use of annotation. Let's start annotating our document by adding a Heading 1 tag to the text HTML explained. Most tags appear in pairs with an opening tag and a closing tag. We'll start by typing the opening tag before the text we want to annotate. The opening tag begins with a left-angled bracket, followed by the name of the tag, which in this case is H1 for Heading 1. We'll follow this with a right-angled bracket. The closing tag is very similar and contains a left-angled bracket, followed by a forward slash, followed by the tag name, which is the same tag name we used before, H1, followed by the right-angled bracket. Notice that opening tags and closing tags are extremely similar. The only difference is the forward slash in the closing tag. If we save our work and refresh the HTML page, you'll notice the text HTML explained is larger and resides on its own line. More importantly, we have identified the main content of our page, this tag, and started to organize the document like you would a book or a report that contains various headings and subheadings. We've used Heading 1 to mark up HTML explained as a Heading 1 tag. Now, let's add a Heading 2 tag to the text Objectives. I'll click before Objectives, type a left-angled bracket, followed by H2, followed by the right-angled bracket. At the end of the line, I'll click and add a closing tag. This is the left-angled bracket, a forward slash, H2, and the right-angled bracket. Again, I'll save my work, and I'll refresh the HTML page. You'll notice that H2 annotates the text Objectives. This one word now appears in the browser as H2 tagged text. It's on its own line, and the formatting has changed. Next, we'll add a paragraph tag. I'll click before the L in the word Let's and type a left-angled bracket, followed by a P, followed by the right-angled bracket. I'm going to click before the O in the word Of, press Enter, and the T in the word This, and I'll move the lines around a little bit. At the end of these 3 lines, I'll close the paragraph tag. Remember, to close a tag, you simply use the opening tag and type a forward slash before the tag name. If I save my work and refresh in the browser, you'll notice that Let's Begin by identifying some of the skills which you will learn in this tutorial is on its own line. The 3 lines that you see in Notepad++ only appear as one line in the browser. This is because the browser ignores white space. I'm going to quickly add 2 more sets of paragraph tags. I'll save my work and refresh it in the browser again, and you'll notice each of the 2 lines that we've annotated as paragraphs in Notepad++, they appear as such in the browser. This line, if you watch this video in its entirety, you will be able to, now appears as a separate line in the browser. Likewise, you will be able to appears on its own line, formatted as paragraph text in the browser. To conclude, I'm going to add a bulleted list. We use the name unordered list to refer to any lists that are not ordered in sequence. For the unordered list, we will use the tag UL. I'll click before the text, define the term hypertext. I'll type the left angle bracket, the UL tag for the unordered list, and a right angled bracket. I'm going to end the list after the last line. If I save my work now and refresh, you'll notice that the list doesn't look right and there are no bullets. To add the bullets, we're going to add a list item tag to each one of the lines. I'll click before define the term hypertext, and I'll add a list item. And at the end, I'll add another list item to close this tag. I've quickly added list items before each of the lines, and I've closed the list item tags at the end of the lines. To make the list items easier to read, I'm going to indent them within the unordered list. If I save my work and refresh in the browser, you'll notice the annotations that I've made in the text editor produce an unordered list in the browser. In this video, we define the term hypertext. Hypertext is text that contains a link to other content. We define the term markup language. This is a computer language that contains text and the annotations to that text. We saw that whitespace characters in an HTML document are ignored by the browser. In order to create whitespace, we can use tagging. Tagging is used to annotate an HTML document. We can describe, organize, format, and do so much more with tagging. Lastly, we learned how to construct an opening and closing tag. The opening tag is formed with a left angle bracket, followed by the tag name, followed by the right angle bracket. The closing tag is formed with a left angle bracket, the /, the tag name, and the right angle bracket. I hope you've learned something from these videos. Thanks for watching. Class dismissed.